Welcome to Drive Time with KJ. I'm your host, KJ Bell. This is the show where I get in my car and I talk about things. And today we're talking about why cold weather is awful. So here we go. We have to start the car. So it's been kind of rainy and cold here in LA lately, which is not usual. You will see I am wearing a jacket, which again is not usual. And by cold, I mean, a friend of mine texted me the other day, was like, I was in the valley and it was 45 degrees, which is, adjusting for California, Los Angeles inflation, is, negative 30 below. I moved here from Colorado and that was a lot colder. It was so funny because there are times when you will leave in the morning and it will be freezing, and then the wild difference in temperature is ridiculous. And for a good chunk of my life, I was living in Southwest Colorado, and then a couple of times a week I would work in a town an hour south in New Mexico. So I would leave in the morning in Colorado and have to defrost my car and everything, and then I would get in the car in the afternoon to go home in New Mexico. And I'd be like, why is it so hot? Oh, because the heater is on from this morning. And it's also 80 degrees outside. So that was a fun period of time. It's also cold. When it arrives, that usually means fall, which means basic white women everywhere will lose their shit and everything becomes pumpkin spiced. And that always bothers me because I'm like, I don't really know what that means. Pumpkin spice. Because is it just the spices that go into a pumpkin pie? Because that's not what it is every time I taste it. It's literally just pumpkin pie flavored. So why don't we just call it pumpkin pie flavored? It just drives me, or just pumpkin. That's all it is. It drives me nuts. It falls into that category of things that make me far angrier than they have any business doing. I don't like being cold. I really don't. I don't like it. That's why I moved here. But it's like, getting out of a warm bed into a cold room in the morning it's a very special kind of torture, It's just awful. I hate it. Don't like it at all. My ideal situation is having one of those programmable thermostats where you can go to sleep on the top of an alpine peak and wake up in the shaded Mojave Desert. That's what I would love. But I am not at a point in my life where I'm in literally a place where I can install that. My apartment doesn't have the technology, nor do I have the funds to make that technology happen. I live in a very old building in LA that does not have air conditioning. So I eliminated the choice between being too hot and paying the extra money for the AC by moving to a building that doesn't have one. And for the heat, it has old-fashioned radiators, but here's the problem. I've been so cold the past couple of nights, but I know if I turn the one on in my bedroom, I'll be too hot. Because you turn that you just barely open the valve and it becomes like the middle of the Amazon in the hottest part of the year. It's a jungle in there. It's so hot when I turn those on. The living room one I can handle. But last night, they were not on. I do not know why. But that feels like some sort of housing violation. Where am I turning? Because I meant to turn back there, but I missed it. And I'm not one of those people who inconveniences everybody around me just because I missed the turn. I'm going to correct my mistake in a different fashion, which is not what always happens here in this city. I do not miss having to scrape off the car when it is frosted over in the morning. That is awful. And if it snowed, sometimes you have to shovel the car out or off, and hate it. And sometimes it's that sort of frost. I don't know if this happens everywhere, but it definitely happened in Colorado and where I grew up in New Mexico, where it's frost, but it looks like snowflakes, but it's a very specific kind of frost that does not scrape well at all. So you have to wait for the car to warm up and to defrost from the heat. And it's just awful to deal with, and I hate it. I haven't driven this way on this street in so long. It's funny how different it can look from the other side. And occasionally you'll get a situation where because sometimes you can like hit the windshield wipers and it'll take care of a good chunk of it, and then you can start defrosting. But sometimes things will have melted and then frozen again, so your windshield wipers are locked in place. I once literally ripped off half of the wipey part of the windshield wiper because I did not realize it had frozen stuck, and I went to move them off so I could scrape, and the nature claimed it as its own. Walking out into the cold is sometimes a literal shock to the system. Like, you ever have that happen where you walk out and you take a breath and it's so cold you actually can't breathe for a second? That's awful. And a lot of the times I would be going to work, so I would have just showered, so I would walk out to start the car and then go back in and finish getting ready, and and my hair would freeze. So now I've got icicle hair. That was always fun. It did make the cold house feel a little bit warmer though, so that was nice. It's like when I was doing swimming lessons and the pool would be cold, so we would jump out of the water and run into the locker room real quick, and then the pool would feel balmy. You know, little physiological, psychological tricks. And the thing, cold weather clothing can be a problem. Some people like layers. I feel like I enjoy occasional layers, but if I wear too many, I feel like I'm being smothered. Like the other day, it was so cold in my office because it was cold outside, and then I cannot get them to adjust the temperature in there right. So I had a tank top on, and then I had a sweater on over that, and then I had a cardigan over that, and then I had this jacket over that, and I was like, it was far too much. But if I took one of them off, I was too cold to do anything. It was driving me nuts, and it's ugly. You know, you have ugly sweater. Some people get really into the ugly sweater thing around the holidays, and I do not like. Why is that a thing? And ugly boots, literally Uggs. They're so ugly. Is it not possible to make some footwear that is nice looking but also has traction? Is that out of the realm of possibility? I feel like there's probably a tourist at the front of this light who doesn't realize you should creep out, because that's the only way you can turn left in this godforsaken town, is to creep out and wait for the red. So cold weather usually means that there's going to be some snow, depending on where you are, right? And I like snow when I don't have to go out in it. And actually, I like walking around in snow. I think it's lovely. Sometimes back in Colorado, New Mexico, I remember there was one snow day we had in high school where we got out early, and instead of going straight home, I went down. There was a lovely little park with a trail along the river in my hometown, and I went and I put on Vivaldi's Four Seasons, the winter, of course, because duh. And I just walked around in the snow and listened to the Vivaldi, and it was lovely. It's a lovely, lovely time. What are these people doing? Literally, what are you doing? You're like totally in the wrong lane. Are you trying? I do not understand what is happening right now. I don't think I can turn here because this woman is blocking the opposite lane. And then she's got a Waymo that's confused. So what are we doing here, sweetheart? She's from Florida. Okay. That explains a lot. No offense to any of you who are in Florida, but also I feel like you know. So I don't miss driving in the snow, but I'm fine with the actual act of driving in the snow. That's fine for me. I don't have a problem with that. I haven't done it in this car. I used to drive a Jeep, so I definitely didn't have any problem. But I did have this pride about, like, I only go into four-wheel drive when I have to. But I was good in the snow. The problem is driving in the snow with other people. Because you get people, there's a few different categories of people in the snow, right? There's the people who just have no clue what they're doing. And so they are going way too slow. That's one category. They're going way too slow. It's like, okay, you can tell that the road is just wet. And yes, black ice is the thing, but it's like, it's clearly just wet. You're fine. You can go a little faster. There is some sort of gang of electric bikes and dirt bikes passing right now. And it looks like a lot of youths. And a lot of them are, I feel like some of them are not wearing helmets and doing wheelies, and it seems, I don't like it. This makes me feel like an old man. And of course they're going through a red light. Oh my God. You know, traffic laws are still a thing when you're on a fucking bike, right? Oh my God, I hate them. Okay, well, those two get left behind. Wow, that was special. What was I talking about? Snow. So you get the people who drive too slow, but then on the other end of that spectrum, you get people who do this thing where they're like, well, I have four-wheel drive. That means I have four-wheel stop, and they're going way too fast in their big trucks, and that's how people die. That's not even a joke. That's literally how people die. The thing with the snow is you don't want to like brake too hard. In fact, that's what I would do to get a sense of the car every winter again, to remind myself, is I would drive out onto the street and then I would brake way too hard so that I could feel what it was like to slip again. You want gentle taps, which goes against every instinct you have when you start sliding. I don't know where we're going, don't know what we're doing. What is happening? There was one year where we got the town I was living in, where I went to college, Durango, Colorado, they cut the ice removal budget for the city to like 25% of what it had been the year before. And then that next year, we got the most snow we had had in more than a decade. So it was awful. So the streets by the middle of December, if it was not a major street, they weren't plowing it, so they had like channels down them. So I was on my way to class one morning, and they were doing like some sort of construction or something, and so I had to move out of the channel that had been carved by other cars, and just immediately spun out. And as it's happening, I'm like, okay, we're fine, turn into the thing, we're okay, little tappies on the brake, we're totally good. And I did a 180, I spun all the way around, but it was bad, but it wasn't bad. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until I was like, okay, we're totally fine. And then I was halfway up the hill to the college, like maybe 2 minutes later, when I realized like how bad it could have been, and just started shaking immediately. So that was fun. That's the sort of thing you deal with driving in the snow. And the actual snow itself, like it's pretty to a certain point, and then it becomes just brown and gray, slushy mess and gross. And like frozen ice, it's heavy and it has to go somewhere, but it doesn't melt quickly. So you just get these giant icebergs. It's so funny, like every winter in the parking lots of stores, you would lose so much parking space to just these gigantic mountains of what eventually just became ice, because the snow would melt enough, but then refreeze, and then melt, and then refreeze, and melt. And it was like a gross, not quite black, not quite gray, just dingy grossness. And it was like, oh, that used to be so pretty. What are we doing? What is happening at the, okay, pedestrians. I knew better than to go this way. This is prime touristy spot of Hollywood on a Saturday. What was I thinking? I had a hierarchy. So I was living in Southwest Colorado, right? So I would have a hierarchy of the people that I would trust when it would snow, according to the license plates. So Colorado, I was like, you're fine. You're probably fine. New Mexico, I was like, okay, you're probably okay. You could be from the south of the state, and you're not as good as the Colorado driver, but you're probably fine. Arizona, I don't trust them at all driving wise usually, but they were above some people in the snow, because I'm like, you could be from Flagstaff. You could be from Flagstaff and be totally fine. So there was that. Texas, back way off. I would back so far off whenever I got behind somebody with Texas plates. Can I even turn right here on a red? I'm going to. I don't know if that was technically illegal. Wow, I'm glad I'm not getting on the freeway today, Jesus. That's gonna do it for this here episode of Drive Time. I don't know why I slipped into that accent. Thank you for joining me today. Make sure I always forget what to say here. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see what's coming next. Got a lot of great stuff planned. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And as always, may your drive be better than mine. Okay, I'm coming over, Tesla. I'm coming over. You know, a Cybertruck honked at me the other day, and then this Nissan is going so small. A Cybertruck honked at me the other day, and it was the stupidest sound I had ever heard, and because I hadn't heard it before. And they honked at me because I dared to not let them in when I didn't have to. I dared not to go out of my way to let them in. So they honked at me, and it was the stupidest sound. I can't even describe how stupid of a sound the Cybertruck horn is. You have to look it up. Somebody said it sounds like when you get something wrong on a game show, and that was pretty close. I thought that was fairly accurate.